we need stress in our lives to get that helps a lot. Like I'm a big fan of meditation, and stress to me is the feelings that comes. So we can create our own stress because if we cannot stop our mind from thinking whatever is stressing us, then we cannot stop the stress from happening. It is your friend. It is helping you to move ahead, do something, get out of this feeling. With stress, we get isolated. We isolate ourselves.
If you are alone or feel alone, if you look at it as a symptom of stress or cause of the stress, get connection. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Maybe at least 80% of physical ailments are coming from emotional problems. If mental health would be a priority, lots of physical ailments would also be eliminated in the first place. Before it gets to the physical effects, you catch it while it's still in your emotions with your feelings. How was your leadership skills? How was your interaction with your colleagues? What did you learn from your coworkers? What personal things you know about that? Like, how did you connect with them? Get the good people and then invest on them, even if they are not 100% technically skilled for that position. I bet they will be much better team leaders and the team will be much happier. Mental health and having a less stressed workday became a very important thing for all the employees, and they are requesting it now. Yeah, that's our future. I meditate a lot, so that helps a lot. But there's a quick breathing technique that works really well because it touches the vagus nerve, and vagus nerve sends the feelings of relaxation to all your body. And how it works is that you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 7, and breathe out through your mouth for a count of 8. I use it all the time. Even if I'm not feeling stressed in between, for example, client calls, physically feeling where you feel discomfort, just noticing where it is, putting your finger there, and while focusing on it, seeing and watching it move in your body. It moves, and it disappears.
There's so many variables under which person might sabotage this technique. Capacity to hold the breath and exhale slowly is physically limited.
When I'm really stressed, I cannot breathe, let alone hold it. You keep your inhaling time shorter than your exhaling time.
That's the principle. That's the principle you need to uphold.
Close your eyes and relax your forehead and eyelids. That relaxes all your body.
Actually, counting is also a really important part of it.
It is a way to trick our mind to focus on the numbers rather than all the thoughts that are going through our minds. Yeah, I love looking at why for everything.
Yeah, me too.
Yes,
Why 7? Why 7?
Yeah, why 7? Why not 5? Why not this? because when we know why, we understand better, and when we understand, we accept. When we accept, we implement.
My belief is that this card gives me access to my subconscious mind. Say what it means to the most of the people, what it means in this ancient knowledge, and what it means to me today. And it can be completely different meaning tomorrow. Welcome, Ipek, to my podcast of Love Your Stress. And just to start things out, I would love to give you opportunity to introduce yourself. So say whatever comes to your mind.
Okay. Hi, Toms. Thank you very much for having me today. Well, most people in my network know who I am, but for the ones who don't know me, I am an insight coach, and I have been practicing coaching for a few years now. And I'm also a certified Ho'oponopono practitioner and a certified Ikigai coach. Uh, I did quite a few things during my formation for coaching. I took quite a few trainings and programs like positive intelligence, mind mastery, and also Mind Valley's Silva method. So these are all the tools that I use with my clients, and I like to have different things that I practice, because everyone comes with a different problem or different goal, different dream. And when you have multiple options, multiple tools that you can use, it helps a lot to get to somewhere faster, easier, according to their needs. So that's what I do. I'm also the program director of a Happy Work Environment company. It is a coaching and consultancy company for corporations. And we create programs for like tailor-made programs for mainly big companies to create a happier work environment. So that's in a nutshell what I do. I live in Canada. I'm in Sarnia, Ontario, and I'm married to my lovely, lovely husband. And we have, between him and I, we have three big boys. They are adult children. So they are out of the house. And so it's just me and my husband. So that's all about me.
Yeah, sounds good. And sounds like you're in a really good place at the moment. And probably stress isn't a big issue for you. Am I right in this assumption?
Well, I think stress is, yes, I can't say I'm overly stressed or anything. But stress is the pressure that life applies on us, right? It comes in many different forms and from many different directions. And it is something we need in our lives in moderation, because it creates momentum on what we want to accomplish. But when it gets to a level more than we need, it starts becoming harmful. So that's when we need to start being more attentive. What's going on? How am I feeling? Why am I feeling this stress? So I think we need stress in our lives to get going, to go forward. But as I said, in a level that will not start affecting us, our mind or our life. So that's what I feel about stress. And I'm not a stress person. I meditate a lot.
That
So
helps.
that helps a lot. Like, I'm a big fan of meditation, and I try to grow the number of people who meditate around me as much as I can, because I know it's amazing. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful tool to deal with stress. That's for sure.
Yeah, and actually, I'm in complete agreement with everything you said there, because I have a similar views of stress that we need some of it, and we have to be careful not to have too much of it. And I love to look at the stress as a relationship, and that's where the title comes in. Love your stress. And before we ask you to answer your thoughts on this topic, love your stress, I would love to, because you already answered this question, I just want to ask you this definition. If you had to make it in one sentence, how would you define stress?
Stress to me is the feelings that comes through outside outside things that are happening around
Mm,
us. It is a little bit complicated. It's not easy to come up with one sentence for stress,
mm,
because it could come from within too, when we are not aligned with ourselves. So we can create our own stress. And actually, in coaching, that's very important. It's very important to find out what is the real source of
mm.
stress. Because when we look at how we feel, okay, I'm feeling stressed, but is it something that I'm making up? Am I creating my own stress while there's nothing that requires to be stressed about? So it's very important to have awareness
Mm,
around our emotions. And when we can feel and understand what is the source of stress for us, what are the main things that create the feelings of stress, then we can start doing something about it.
yeah, I love how you answer the question. It actually complements really well with the answer that Mazipsal said to me in the last podcast. And I really love how she framed it, that we all know how stress feels. However, uh, when it gets to the definition and expressing through the words, ask 10 people and you will have 10 different definitions.
For sure.
And it also comes to the full circle, how you finished your definition with bringing awareness, because sometimes we need to have some kind of definition
Mhm.
to let it out, to give it some kind of form, to bring it to our awareness. And if we don't even try to define stress, then yeah, we know the feeling, but we might not be aware of it
Mhm.
most of the time. So that's why I love to ask people define stress, because once you start defining, you start actually reaching out for it and starting to think, oh, what
Absolutely.
is stress? So yeah, I love how you've started with
Mhm.
stress is a feeling, and then as you try to reach for the words,
It's hard.
yeah,
Yeah, it's hard. And it might change. The definition might change for me from what I have it today.
yeah,
Like next year, come ask me, I might
five
say
minutes ago,
something different. Yeah,
even 5 minutes later, you hear
of
something
course.
else, and yeah, I love this one. I take a bit of that as well.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So yeah, organically we go to the, as you said, that the awareness part is really important. And what do you think about the title "Love Your Stress"? What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, I like that title because, as you said, yes, in moderation, stress is good for us. It's a motivator for
Mm,
us to, because uh, even though stress is a negative feeling when we look at it, but it's also a something to push us forward,
mm,
because we want to get rid of stress, right? We want to get rid
mm,
of that feeling. And then when we feel it, we need to find a way to eliminate it, which takes us to the next step, to the steps that we take to do something about it, so that we can eliminate, we can remove those stressors from our life.
mm,
So it gives us some kind of power, some kind of pushing power pushes us to get out of that stressful feeling. And how can we do that? We can only do that by doing something about what is stressing us at that moment. So that's why I like the title "Love Your Stress," because it is your friend. It is helping you to move ahead, do something, get out of this feeling. So that's how I feel and how I think about your title. It's good. I like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm already trying to imagine and picture things in my mind. And because of my background, I was studying electronics. So I have lots of graphs and charts in my mind. That's one way how I visualize things. And as you were talking, I was trying to build a model, how you see the stress. And my first idea was like you have this chart. On one side, you have, as you said, stress is a negative feeling. You have, okay, there's negative, and then there's other side. So there's some level of stress. There's some level here when it's too much, not enough. And in the middle, there's this kind of a hole. And the stress is kind of the one, that friend that pushes you back into that hole in the middle where there's not this negative feeling anymore.
Yeah.
So that's how I visualize it. You have this like a pressure pushing you inside back into discomfort where you have this nice feeling.
Yeah. So there's the nice feeling and there's the not so nice feeling. And so stress
stress is a
helps
good
us to
friend.
go exactly to go
Yes.
that way, so that how can I get there? Find the way.
So, and because the last thing you said in the previous question was awareness, I'm curious, how do you get aware of the stress? What are those signs?
For me, in general, and for what I see around me with my clients, my family, my friends, it shows itself in the form of anxiety in general, or resignation from being socialized, like being social or being with friends. It's with stress we get isolated, we isolate ourselves. And and when you don't share it, especially when you don't share your feelings and how you feel with others, it gets even more isolating. And with the COVID especially, all the extra stress that we didn't have pre-COVID in our lives was added into the equation, right? So I think, as I said, when we are aware of our stressors, we can be even easier. We can notice easier the extra ones that come our way, so that we can start thinking about what can I do? How can I get rid of this stress? And how can I work with stress in a way, in a position where I can start feeling better, or I can make things better. I can find solutions. So I think, as I said, stress is like in moderation our friend, but a lot of stress creates so much anxiety, and that's not good for us. And in general, it shows up as the feeling of anxiety. That's how I see in general around me and on myself. How does it feel for you?
For me, I mostly, I don't focus solely on emotion only, not only the feeling. It also kind of this, anxiety, this kind of sense of urgency.
Mhm.
But I also notice it in my body as well. So because I've been doing yoga for a long time,
Mhm.
and I notice on my neck, and then it's
Yeah.
shoulders. So I
Ah.
get the stiffness here. So I either want to massage my neck and shoulders.
Mhm.
Like when I notice that I kind of like feel a tension here, then I know that there's something causing me to tense up my muscles, and
Yeah.
that's some kind of stress. So I usually feel it from physical cues. Sometimes
Mhm.
I feel it also in my digestive system because once you're
Mhm.
stressed,
Yeah.
digestive system slows down and sometimes even stops.
Yeah.
So if I feel something happening with my digestive system, that's also another
Mhm.
symptom. And actually,
Yeah.
it's kind of like yeah, it's more like how I notice and how I become aware of the stress is by the symptoms and signs, not only the feelings, as you said, which is also is probably a bit early sign. But if I'm already like in a funnel going down
Mhm.
the stress loop
Yeah.
and getting
Yeah.
stressed and stressed and stressed, and it's already like way past the feeling, and I'm
Mhm.
already comfortable with it, and I'm already like taking it for granted, already
Yeah.
used to it. Then the body is like the next thing that it's already signals. Okay, Toms, you've been stressed for a while and you haven't noticed it yet. So here's a sign. Here's a sign, and the body keeps sending you these signs as well. And
Absolutely.
that's one way. And I had this really interesting thought while you were talking, um, just completely out of the topic. I love tarot, and every day I pull a card.
Mhm.
And today I had a card, Hermit. A question that a really interesting thought you mentioned is isolation.
Mhm.
And you were talking a bit in a sense that isolation can cause and do cause lots of stress, and that's a big problem we have these days, especially.
Mhm.
However, with inspiration from other people on a guest, I had this interesting thought popping into mind, and I would love to ask this question.
Sure.
Have you ever thought of isolation as a symptom of a stress?
Yes. Yes. Because sometimes being stressed makes us get back into our shelf,
Mm,
right? And like in our cocoon, we don't. It, stress. Lots of stress causes anxiety. Lots of
mhm,
anxiety causes depression. So these are all the steps that uh, are like inevitable steps if you don't deal with stress itself.
mhm,
So maybe not stress itself, but when you have extras, too much stress, then it
mhm,
causes anxiety, depression, and isolation. Yes.
mhm,
And with especially COVID and people being isolated in their homes, especially people who are already alone. When you don't have someone in your life, when you live by yourself, the way you socialize is to get together with your friends, to go out, uh, do some social, like join some social events or something, get together with people because we need connection,
mhm,
in person connection. And especially if you don't have someone already that you share in life with, uh, then you feel even more alone in your cocoon in your
yeah.
life, uh, because we couldn't go out, we couldn't socialize, we couldn't get together with friends, and that created so much stress for so many. Some people are very self-efficient, some people even love being isolated, but not everybody. And for the ones who don't like it, who don't want to live that way, were like target of too much stress.
Mm,
So it's like a vicious circle. Stress might create isolation, and isolation might create even more stress. So you need to get out of that circle. You need to get aware of what you are feeling and really do something about it, like call friends, do meditation, even if through video, get into a group, share, talks, speak, and just get rid of that stress. Have fun. Find something that is fun to you, a hobby or something that you can share, even if online with people. Get together with people and do something fun. That's the, I think, best way to deal with stress.
I love how you answered the question because in the beginning I saw you struggle, but towards the end of the answer, you summed it up pretty well. That it can be seen as a cause, and it can be seen as effect, and it can be seen as a symptom. So, and because we all know that humans are social creatures, and it's actually one of our needs to have this human connection, um, even with a mother as your child, and then continuing on the life, uh, we have this need, and if we
Mhm.
don't fulfill this need, we have this friend coming to us and saying, you're not fulfilling one of your needs, please go out and connect with someone, you need this connection, and it kind of this friend pushes us out of the loneliness, and that's the actually the takeaway I wanted to people to hear, that if you are alone or feel alone, that it doesn't matter where you start. If you look at it as a symptom of stress or cause of the stress, uh, get connection.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, you summed it up very nicely.
And there was another keyword I really loved and that stuck me out was the stress gets more of isolation, which is actually another interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I already connected with how brain works,
Mm-hmm.
because in a stress, brain shuts down to the basic survival part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and that means rational thinking, emotion, they get reduced to, depending on the level of stress and how long it is, they get reduced, and that's why actually physically you don't feel this connection anymore to anyone else, because your feelings, your rational thinking, uh, they're not working properly anymore. You're under the stress. Your body is physically flooded with hormones,
Yeah.
which shut down your brain. And the curious thing about the brain is that it can take lots of damage and
Mm-hmm.
you would notice it. And you know it from the injuries, from the head trauma injury studies. You could have one side paralyzed completely or just have like a big hole in your brain, and you wouldn't notice. You wouldn't know that you wouldn't notice that you feel somehow differently. You wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even notice it. Brain would adapt. It's such a fascinating subject. And because of this phenomena, it also works for the stress. You don't notice that you don't have these parts of your brain actually working for you.
Yeah.
And because they don't working, you feel alone, you feel isolated. Yeah, but because of the stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you said earlier about stress causing psychosomatic symptoms like
Mm-hmm.
our neck,
Yeah.
our shoulders, yes, that's why exactly it is our friend too, because it is giving us symptoms. It is giving us like warnings. It's warning us, and when
Yeah.
we and physical ailments, like i I'm not a doctor, but
Yeah.
I believe that maybe at least 80% of physical ailments are coming from emotional
Mm.
problems. So that's exactly why it's even more important to deal with our mental health. our mental health should be our priority. I see like when we look at uh, social life, like physical health is way paramount than mental health. And all the, let's say, insurance covers mainly our physical health, right? And in Canada, for example, government pays for our, like we don't pay for our physical problems. But if we need to see a psychotherapist or something other than subsidized situations, you have to pay. But I believe that if mental health would be a priority, lots of physical ailments would also be eliminated in the first place. So that would be even cheaper, even easier for countries to deal with physical problems, because physical problems would be much less. So I think the priorities need to change. Mental health should be the first priority, because the mentally healthier people get much less sick physically. So I think that's a big thing, because you said it perfectly. You don't feel the stress until you feel the physical effects of it on you. Well, what I'm seeing is before it gets to the physical effects, you catch it while it's still in your emotions with your feelings. So I think that kind of support would be much more meaningful for
Yeah,
people.
completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like this old saying, when do you kill Godzilla? You kill it while it's young, while it's small.
Exactly.
So it's same with the stress. The early warning signs are in emotional and feelings. I completely agree with you. However, if you don't have this awareness, and we know from the society, from the leaders, from companies, how they're structured, how they work, there are plenty of people who don't have emotional intelligence, for lack of better term.
Yeah.
And if you don't have this skill, and it's a skill, it's not something you born into, it's not dependent on gender or something. It's a skill you can train, everyone can train. And if you're not, it's like in going to school. I love to uh, give this example that Jim Quick says about learning, about reading, and it's the same thing. Like he always says that if you're reading slow and you see the evidence that other people can read fast, it's not because you're damaged somehow. It's because you haven't trained the skill. And same goes for emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
If you don't feel emotions, it's not because you're not capable of feeling them. It's just because you haven't trained them by bringing awareness. So
Absolutely. And you made a very good point. When companies hire people, they look mainly at their technical skills, their experiences in what they accomplished in terms of like physical successes, rather than how was your leadership skills, how was your interaction with your colleagues, what did you learn from your coworkers, who, like, what personal things you know about that, like how did you connect with them. So these are the ways to measure how emotionally intelligent those people. And I think that you can teach someone the technical skills easier, but being a good person is something different. And when you catch that, when you catch that person, you need to invest on them, like get the good people and then invest on them, even if they are not 100% technically skilled for that position. I bet they will be much better team leaders and the team will be much happier. I mean, that's very important.
I completely agree. And before you answer my next question, do you see a improvement and change in this field? I just wanted to share my experience because last time when I applied for a job and went for the interview, the team leader who was leading the recruiting process, he actually said to me that they would rather take a person who's eager and willing to learn. So basically, it's they have a right mindset to develop skills than the really proficient and really skilled person who's not willing to learn, because in the long term, in the long run, that person who's not willing to learn and willing to adapt, who has like a bit more of a fixed mindset, that person will cost company more. Because in the beginning, yes, in the beginning, that rigid person might start off really quickly, but he will not grow. He will stay with his routines and he will stay flat. However, that one that who is willing to learn, he will rise to the top.
Absolutely. And you know, I see a trend towards this, which is wonderful. Like I can't say it's very wide, but it is happening. It started, and I'm so glad that I'm part of a group of people who are trying to create this kind of awareness in corporations, in companies, in workplaces. And I don't want to like be mean and say nothing is happening. No, there is a lot happening, which is awesome. And some kind of awareness is growing in the business world. And that's very, very hopeful, very positive. And I'm so glad to see that starting to bloom slowly but surely.
I think how I imagine it right now is because sometimes people with the wrong intentions can get to the right places. So, and I was like already like thinking of that proficient person who's not growing, and that young person who's usually young. It doesn't matter. The age doesn't matter. Just that's how usually happens. He's growing, and how I imagine industry right now. That industry is at the moment adapting and switching over to this emotional intelligence and growth mindset. And we're just about to break through and see that these companies who invest in emotional intelligence, they become more successful and they outperform. They massively outperform other companies. And then at some point, those companies who don't do this, they have a choice, either bankrupt or just change their ways.
Yes.
So I think that's the state we are. That's how I imagine it. We're growing. We're bringing this awareness in, and we might not see the results in every industry yet. We might not see the results everywhere yet, but it's there. It's just about time.
And Tom's, I want to say this. This is becoming a trend. And among the good quality, good candidates who are looking for jobs, they are starting to look for this in the companies they want to work at, right? So this is becoming it's going to become a norm. Awesome. Because there will be more and more people who are looking to change jobs or looking for to get into companies. They will be asking for this. They are asking for this now. Especially with the pandemic, with this all hybrid work environments, being on Zoom calls every day, mental health And having a less stressed workday became a very important thing for all the employees, and they are requesting it now. Yeah, that's our future.
I love how you touched up for the rational thinking person, this other reason why it's a good idea to start investing into this topic, because it's not only your profits, it's also the employees. The good employees don't want to go to for your company in the first place. Like this,
Exactly.
like mixes up together. Like really, if you don't cover this angle, you cover this angle, and there's going to be so much reasons why this is the best investment uh, for everyone.
Yeah, hiring the best candidates and retention of the best candidates, because people will come when you offer them nice things, but when they find out that it's empty, it's not these are empty offers that are not filled, that are not fulfilled, then they will leave. So if you don't want to invest and reinvest in hiring and rehiring, you have to fill those offers.
Yeah.
That's commitments. Yeah.
And I also loved how you touched upon some brief questions as a tip, how to spot out those individuals who are interested into the emotional intelligence. That's also like, I just wanted to appreciate that. It was earlier in conversation, you like gave examples. And now I would like to step back a bit and talk about other examples. How are you dealing with the stress you have? Like, what are your actions you're taking daily, weekly, monthly? So what are your tips for the people from your experience? What works for you the best? And maybe why?
Well, as I said, I meditate a lot. So that helps a lot. But there's a quick tip that I would like to share with everybody whenever they feel stressed. There's a breathing technique that works really well, because when you apply that, that works really well because it touches the vagus nerve, and vagus nerve sends the feelings of relaxation to all your body. And how it works is that you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 7, and breathe out through your mouth for a count of 8. So breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 7, breathe out for a count of 8. And you keep doing it like 3-4 times. Take a break and do it again. You can do it in 3 sets of, let's say, 5 times. And it is really effective for stress and anxiety. I use it all the time. Even if I'm not feeling stressed in between, for example, client calls, to just empty my mind and feel better, recenter. I do that. It is very helpful. And there's also a healing technique that I have learned from another coach, friend of mine, Helen Ickfors. She showed me that healing technique. It is about physically feeling where you feel discomfort, just noticing where it is. You say like on your neck, on your shoulders, on your chest, whatever there is, and putting your finger there, and while focusing on it, seeing and watching it move in your body. It moves, and it disappears. So that's another technique. It requires a little bit of training, of course. It's not as easy as that breathing technique that I said, but that works really well. That breathing technique, I would highly recommend. Whenever you feel stressed, try that, use that, and that's what I do. And again, meditation. There are so many stress releasing meditations, anxiety meditations all over the place. I have that kind of meditations. I'm also a meditation teacher on the Insight Timer app. So I have recorded meditations there, and there are hundreds of other people's great meditations. Not only there, everywhere, YouTube, you name it, you Google it, you get thousands. So I think meditation and breathing techniques help a lot with stress removal.
I love how you mentioned it because I already have two objections for that breathing technique. In the cases it might not work or what might not work. And the first, for the people who try these techniques and there's some kind of resistance or they're not able to do it to the letter. To first of all, you said that it's a skill. You need a training. And how I imagine the process in my mind is that for the amount of level of stress you have and the training you have for the breathing technique, it's really easy for you and it works well. However, I'm imagining like a really like a tense, rigid, stressed executive who is really under a big load of stress. And I can imagine that for him or her, for that matter, doesn't matter, having that 4-7-8 technique might not work the best out of the box, and he might need a bit of a bit of a training in order to apply it. And there will be a question I want to ask you, because I want to also share my belief. When you're under the higher amount of stress, when you pass some threshold of a stress, your body physically tenses up, even your chest, and your lung capacity gets slower. And depending, and also you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can count 1, 2. So there's so many variables under which person might sabotage this technique. There's like I already mentioned two of them. That either your physical muscles don't allow your capacity for air intake, so your capacity to hold the breath and exhale slowly is physically limited.
Yeah.
And therefore, my question to you is, does it really matter the number? Because my belief is, look, okay, answer first the question, and I can share my belief if it's still relevant.
Okay. Yes, good question. Very good question. Because I agree with you. When I mentioned this breathing technique to other people, I got this response saying, when I'm really stressed, I cannot breathe, let alone hold it. Yeah. Yes, there is something easier. The easiest thing is whatever you do, you keep your inhaling time shorter than your exhaling time. Like if you inhale for 2 seconds, make sure at least you exhale in 4 seconds. You don't have to hold your breath, but because our body relaxes when we keep longer exhaling times. So the longer the exhale time is, the more relaxed our body gets. So it doesn't matter if you cannot count, if you don't want to be doing it, and if it's too long. Just if you inhale for a count of 2, make sure you exhale for a count of 4 at least, because that's exactly what will relax you. Also, another relaxation tip: when you close your eyes and relax your forehead and eyelids, that relaxes all your body. It helps. Try it. You will see when you close your eyes and just relax your forehead all the way, like all your forehead muscles and your eyelids.
Does hand do anything or just a gesture?
You don't need to touch. Just close your eyes and relax your forehead and your eyelids, and you will feel the relaxation go all through your body down.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's connected not only eyelids, it's also the eye muscles. So it's the whole thing together, just focusing on eyelids. It also helps to focus not focus, but relax the eye muscles. So I feel it connection because I do notice a bit of tension once in a while in my eyes. I start paying attention to those feelings. And yeah, I do notice that those eye muscles start relaxing. And also that brings that positive feeling as well. Yeah, I have noticed that too as
Yes,
well.
yes. I can feel all the relaxation going through my arms down
Yeah,
when I
it
do that.
spreads. It spreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
another
actually,
one.
yeah, I actually loved how you answered the question because I have a same observation and same belief that yeah, it doesn't matter that much of the actual number as long as you keep track that the number you inhale, exhale, and hold, that is
Yeah.
proportional, that the inhalation
Yeah,
is
exactly.
shorter than exhalation. That's the principle. That's the principle you
Exactly.
need to uphold. And the second thing I wanted to add, maybe it's useful for someone, is why you should count, because as long as you keep on breathing, you might automatically. Actually, counting is also a really important part of it. In my, do you know an answer for what's your answer for
Yes.
that?
Yes, it is important. Why? Because
Yeah.
our mind won't stop from thinking.
Mm,
It is a way to trick our mind to focus on the numbers
yeah.
rather than all the thoughts that are going through our minds. Because if we cannot stop our mind from thinking whatever is stressing us, then we cannot stop the stress from happening.
Yeah.
So it is a trick. We are tricking our minds to focus on the numbers, counting, so that we can focus on that and we can relax a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why, exactly.
Yeah. I love how we covered the both aspects of numbers and why numbers. And I think you gave a perfect answer for both of these objections I had. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I love looking at why for
yeah, me
everything.
too. Me too. That's why I asked.
Yes,
Why
because
seven? Why
yeah,
seven?
yeah, why 7? Why not 5? Why not this? Because when we know why, we understand better, and when we
Yeah,
understand, we accept. When we accept, we implement.
exactly.
I have a question for you, though.
Go for it.
You
I'm looking.
mentioned you pick a tarot card every day, and you
Yeah,
said that for today you picked Hermit.
yeah.
What is the meaning of it?
Well, that's an interesting question because in order, I will answer it in Alan's Martin style. When I kind of go off topic before I actually answer the question.
Okay.
So my belief is that this card gives me access to my subconscious mind, and it just projects out what's in there. And because of that, I can pay attention during the day to signs and patterns that occur during the day. It's kind of a tool. It's just like instead of just going randomly uh, and paying attention to what you pay attention usually, this card gives you a visual symbolic image, and the symbols and images are one of the best ways how to learn and teach ourselves. And they're really powerful tools. So I love to use those tools on myself. And of course, there are two ways how I use these tools. One of them is just physically looking at the card and just observing what kind of thoughts come into my mind. Once I have enough training understanding the symbolism and what it means to me. Another thing is what I sometimes do is I look up meaning of the card, what other people have come up, and what are their associations for the symbolism. And there are in my mind, two categories of symbolism. One is like your personal meaning,
Mm-hmm.
what you have from your own mind, and other one is kind of like this archetypal inherent subconscious mind, which is coming from society, ancients, your
Mm-hmm.
parents, and everything. So there are these two sides of the coin, and depending which one you want to bring out, it's useful to check the meaning that other people have come up with from the knowledge of studying the mythology and everything else, and symbolism as a topic. And then there's this your own meanings that you have assigned on your own mind, on your own life and experiences. And so in answering your question, what's the meaning of the hermit? I would need to touch upon the both in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because I would need to say what it means to the most of the people, what it means in this ancient
Yeah.
knowledge, and what it means to me today. Because I could take this card today and have one meaning, and it could have only this one meaning at all.
Mm-hmm.
It could have two meanings, and it can be completely different meaning tomorrow.
Mm.
So, and for today, it had two meanings for me. It was isolation, the one that you mentioned was isolation, because
Wow.
hermit goes alone. So that means that it's something important. And it doesn't mean that I'm isolated. That means that it's something important. I need to pay attention. And that's how I interpret the card today. Uh, if someone speaks something about isolation, because there's a man um, standing alone with his lantern, because I have a Rider's Waite deck, it's for people who know what I'm talking about. There's this one man standing alone in the dark with a lantern.
Mm.
So that's one meaning I got from the card. Pay attention to isolation. And other meaning is sharing,
Mm.
because the man has a light. And
Yes.
in order to see in the dark, uh, might not mean anything to anyone, but this is my understanding, my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the context, this might resonate with you or might not.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. I'm very interested in tarot too. I
Yeah,
don't know much about it, but I really like it.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah. So glad you um, appreciated it and found it useful. And therefore, because we were both talking, and this was actually kind of like balance, because I was sharing a bit, you were sharing a bit, and it wasn't like a strict interview when I just ask questions and you answer. That's why I think it's really useful to ask you this second to last question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your one takeaway from this interview? So what pops into your mind?
uh, that I had great time. I thought it has been a very good conversation. Yes, it wasn't one-sided. It was balanced, and I like that too. I don't like being the only person speaking. So it was very nice. I had very good time, and I hope many people can find something helpful with about what we have discussed today.
Awesome answer. And my last question, which I always love to finish, is could you give me a one recommendation? Who would be the next person for me to reach out? Someone you would love to see on this podcast. Love your
Oh,
stress.
oh, there are so many. That's a difficult question. Well,
You can do like Alan
uh,
did, just start dropping names.
dropping names. Oh,
So
the
you don't
first
feel the
names
pressure
that
having
come
just
to
one.
my mind. I don't know if you have met with Paul Rogers. Uh,
Yeah.
Paul Rogers would be a good fit. Um, I think Daman Philip, she's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship coach. She's amazing too. I think there's Susan Lepley Miller.
Mm-hmm.
She's great in nonprofit world. She just started a nonprofit with her friend Leslie. Uh, these are the three names that come to my mind right away, but
Awesome.
I would think Céline Cloutier. Céline
Mm,
Cloutier. You
yeah,
might want to talk to her too. I didn't have a chance to talk to her myself, but I love what she does, her
yeah.
approach. She's uh, very deep person, so
Mm,
she might be a
yeah.
good fit. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
love those recommendations. I already know a couple of those. And what I actually appreciate more is to have a new people that I haven't reached out yet. And
Mm.
just like this balance between knowing something familiar and something new. So yeah, I
Yeah,
love how you answered. Give me four awesome recommendations and perfect balance.
thank
On this
you.
note, I would love to thank you very much for joining for this interview. It was my pleasure
Yeah.
be with you and smile and be present.
Yes, smile and be present. Thank you so much, Toms. It has been a very nice time for me, and I enjoyed myself and I enjoyed talking with you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.